Waiting on a tax return? Hopefully it ends up in your hands. Fraudulent tax returns due to identity theft increased by 30% in 2023. If you're in a bind this tax season, LifeLock can help. Our U.S.-based restoration specialists are experts dedicated to helping solve your identity theft issues. And all LifeLock plans are backed by the $1 Million Protection Package. So we'll reimburse you up to the limits of your plan if you lose money due to identity theft. Help protect your information this tax season with LifeLock. Save up to 25% your first year at LifeLock.com/aware.
92% of households that start the year with Peloton are still active a year later.
All because of a fancy bike?
It's not just a bike. Peloton makes treadmills too.
All treadmills are the same.
Our treadmills can adjust speed and incline automatically, so you never break your stride. Whether you're squeezing in a power walk or training for a marathon, Peloton can help you achieve your fitness goals. 92% stick with it. So can you. Try the Peloton Tread risk-free with the 30-day home trial. New members only. Not available in remote locations. See additional terms at onepeloton.com/home-trial.
Historia Canadiana is recorded on the unceded lands of the Kanien'kehá:ka First Nation.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to A Cultural History of Canada. My name is Patrick, and with me, as always, is Matt.
Yo, what's up? What's up, homie? This episode is gonna be straight fire.
Today, we're just vibing. That's it. Turn it off now if you don't want to just hear two white dudes vibing.
Yeah, listen, folks. I've been sick the past couple days. Patrick's moving. He just came back from a major conference. It's the end of term for me at the school I work at. So Patrick had an idea.
Yes. I was like, well, I've been working on the notes, and we are going back to like the normal episode structure in the next episode. But for today, we're going to do a quiz show type of thing. I don't know how it's going to work. I don't know if it's going to be good. I don't know if we're going to be good, but that's what we're dealing with today. That's it. So I'm using the Canadian Encyclopedia's quizzes that they have on like a variety of topics. And we'll just kind of figure it out as we go. Maybe look up some of the information that they tell us we got wrong or right. We'll just see how it goes and have a big vibe.
And I'm thinking in between every quiz, we can talk about a piece of Canadian news.
Great.
So we'll do a quiz.
That's awesome.
And then we'll talk about some news. Like we can talk about the railroad strike that's about to happen. Because as everybody knows who's listened to this show, of course the fucking railroad is causing problems again. You know, we're putting men in space, but Canada can't get beyond a fucking track. God damn it.
I mean, yeah.
And we'll talk about how the Canadian maple syrup reserves at an all-time low. We'll talk about how the Ontario school boards are suing TikTok, Snapchat, and Meta.
News.
We'll just I'm sure
how...
Quebec's done something Quebec recently.
It has. Like we can talk about that if you want. Like,
but first,
I'm gauging what news is important by whether or not you have heard of it all the way in Australia.
Well, I'm trying to look at more news in general.
Okay, that's fair. Yeah.
So,
but
all right.
Generally, like I can figure out because it's so hard to determine like what's going to stick or what's just puff pieces or whatever.
Yeah.
Generally, if I know or I hear that you are hearing about it, I know that something's going on that I should pay attention to. Mm-hmm. So, yeah. So do you want to start with news or start with a quiz?
We'll start with a quiz, and you know what, you guys, if you like our personalities and our charisma, I encourage you to stick along. I'm sure we'll hit on some deep topics eventually. We're pretty smart guys, and I've been told we have a good rapport, a good tete-a-tete, repartee, good other French words, banter, chemistry. But if you're just here for the histories, that's totally fine. I get it. I'm not going to be insulted. I'll just cry a little bit when I go to bed tonight. No more than normal.
I'll cry a lot.
No more than normal.
I asked the other day, I was talking to students and we were talking about thesis statements. And I asked them like, okay, based on what we just talked about, does anyone in the classroom want to give me just like a thesis statement that will workshop just right now as an example? And one kid, without skipping a beat, lifted their hand and said, English is the most useless class to have in CEGEP. and just stared at me straight in the eyes as he said that.
God damn. Fuck's sake.
Just like in front of 30 kids. I was like, I might break down and cry in front of all of you.
Never mind that, English helps teach you communication, which is probably the most useful skill in the modern day, but whatever. I'm not salty. You're salty.
Look, I get paid regardless. I don't give a fuck whether you like my class or not.
And the thing is, I was all ready for, I thought we were going to do eugenics today, so I'd studied up on it. I had found posters of eugenics propaganda, but whatever. Let's do a quiz about food in Canada. So I picked easy mode, 5 questions, right?
Okay,
I'm already failing at question 1.
Okay, what's the question?
What are the main ingredients in the Three Sisters soup, a traditional recipe used by many Indigenous communities throughout Canada?
Oh God.
They have,
one of them would.
Is it corn, squash, and
ahead.
wild rice, corn, squash, and beans, corn, tomatoes, and barley, corn, tomatoes, and beans?
It's option 2.
So it's corn, squash, and beans. That's correct.
Yes.
Good job. What is Halifax's official food? Lobster roll?
What are the options? Do they tell you?
Lobster roll, doner, oatcakes, maple syrup.
I guess lobster rolls. Oh no. What's a donair again?
It was doner.
Oh shit.
Oh,
Remind me
it's
what a
like
donair
how to make the famous Atlantic Canadian Halifax. God damn it. Doner, it's like
Isn't a donair like a
it's like a wrap. It's a bit like a gyro.
Yeah. How is that the
I
official
don't-
food of Halifax? It's Lebanese.
Yo, Halifax is just fucking cultural. Fucking stop being so judgmental and racist, Patrick. Gosh.
Not. It's fine. I love Lebanese food. Just of all the things.
Walter Chell. Sorry, what?
Is there like a major Lebanese population in Halifax?
Yeah,
Don't have
no,
to.
remember we talked about when we talked about with the poet laureate. Halifax historically as a port city was a major place for a lot of immigrants to get dropped off. Because due to the fact that it was a place for slaves and low income. Yeah. Gotta
So apparently
decolonize your
today-
mind, Patrick.
No, for sure. I'm expecting there's a lot. There's some, but I wouldn't expect there to be that many that it would be
I
an
mean, it
official
also helps
food.
that, wouldn't Halifax still have like a fairly strong French population as well?
Probably, although a lot of them were expelled.
Yeah, but still, I feel like there's ground for it.
Mm-hmm.
Don't need to be so surprised. God.
I just looked it up. Apparently, with a population of 400,000 people in total, Halifax Lebanese population is 15,000. Right, so about 4%. Yeah. Okay, so pretty substantial. Okay, I will keep putting my foot in my mouth, I guess.
Do it. Fucking do it. All right. So next question. Walter Chell is often credited with inventing one of Canada's most popular cocktails. Which cocktail did he invent? The Caesar, the Manhattan, the Pina Colada, the Aperol Spritz.
Ooh. Spritz?
No, the Caesar.
Really?
What's a Caesar?
Isn't oh
Well, that's
God.
a Bloody Caesar.
Yeah, exactly. Wouldn't it be the Bloody Caesar? Yeah.
Oh, it is the Bloody Caesar. What the fuck are we doing, Canada? Because genuinely. So here we have the Bloody Caesar, fucking tomato juice for some fucking reason. Put a stick of fucking celery in my cocktail, why don't you? Then we put fucking pineapple on pizza. Yeah, that's our invention. What the fuck is this country doing with its life? Like, what did we do wrong to infer the wrath of the gods?
Like a good Bloody Caesar every once in a while.
Shut the fuck up. People only like to say they like a Bloody Caesar because they like to pretend they're not alcoholic when they're actually alcoholic.
Yeah, it's exactly that. At least I admit it. It's the perfect drink to hide in public. It looks like tomato juice.
Get your fucking clamato juice out of here.
So,
God damn
yeah,
it.
just for a little bit more info. So Ted Saucier apparently created this in 1951, although he credits the recipe to Milo J. Sutliff, who is a publisher in New York. So I guess this predates the version of the Polonaise nightclub by at least 2-3 years. So I guess he adapted a recipe from an American guy he knew, and that created the
Oh,
Bloody Caesar. Okay.
okay. All right, this one's easy. This one we can actually get.
Okay.
Which of the following foods was not invented in Canada? Butter tarts, Nanaimo bars, poutine, French fries.
Come on. Come on. French
Which one is
fries.
it?
They're Belgian.
Yes.
Okay.
I love that. French fry. All right, and then this last one. I want to do this last one just because it's so dumb. I remember seeing this one before. What is not a main ingredient in a poutine? Gravy, potatoes, cheese curds, green beans.
Get the fuck out of here. No. No. I'm generally flexible with like adapting poutine. We've talked about it on our sister show. Right?
Fuck
I'm
yeah. Which is
fine.
basically just
Yeah.
this.
Which is basically, yep, just us shooting the shit for an hour. But like all jokes aside, beans, if you put that on your poutine, you deserve to commit ritual seppuku.
Now it's Sudoku, you uncultured fuck. I think that was my favorite moment in high school when I knew a kid that actually made a teacher think that. Like seppuku was pronounced Sudoku and Sudoku was pronounced seppuku. Like he actually made teachers think that.
That's brilliant. I think that's one of the funniest things that you could ever do.
10 out of 10. I mean, it's like I once got the words jacuzzi and yakuza mixed up. So now I'm in hot water with the Japanese mafia.
But
That's actually my favorite joke of all time. I'm not lying. Like that is number
yeah,
one joke for Mackenzie Cooper.
one that I've been vibing with one of my friends who, okay, this is going to make sense to like two people in the audience, maybe, right? So people accused Freud of being very heterocentric, right? So that's why
Right.
his successor, Jacques Lacan, focused on the gays.
He focused on the gays.
But that only makes sense if you know Jacques Lacan's work, but I love that joke so much, and it's dumb. Anyway, I'm not going to explain it. Look it up if you want.
Okay.
Anyway,
So anyway, that's a
so we got
quiz. Do we
what,
want to
3 out
talk
of 5
about?
on that one?
Yeah. So that's a pass.
Hey, C's get
That's a
degrees.
pass. Yo, they do. I say we both say this if we didn't get like what B's and A's.
Yep. Sure.
All right. Do we want to do a news
Right.
article?
Great. What's the first news topic you want to talk
I'd
about?
say we should start light and then get serious and heavy.
Okay. Great.
So let's
Go
talk
for
about
it.
the maple syrup reserves, which will most likely get dark and heavy. But do you want to explain what's happening with the maple syrup reserves, Patrick?
So basically, context for all you uncultured Canadians out there, Canada has a maple syrup reserve.
The only one
Because,
in the world, by the way.
yes,
I
of
must
course.
stress this point.
Yeah, of course. And the reason for that is in part because we basically have a racket of maple syrup. We have an institution that legislates what how you can produce maple syrup and how much can be sold and so on. But also we have that reserve to ensure that if for whatever reason maple syrup production is down one year, we can still give the Canadian population and good Canadian citizens as much maple syrup as they truly deserve that winter.
Also, it's how maple syrup is shipped around the world.
Yes, that too. Right.
It is
So,
controlled by the Quebec Maple Syrup Producers. It's a federal organization. It accounts for 94% of Canadian maple syrup. So I imagine that last 6% is just people like making their own stuff from home and trees in their yards and whatever.
so you're allowed to do like certain homegrown, but it has to be
Yeah.
under a certain level of production,
Yeah.
right? It's kind
And
of
you
like
can't
alcohol or
commercialize it.
marijuana. But yeah, exactly. Yeah, if you want to commercialize it, you have to do a certain portion.
Or
and
it's like if
dump
it's
to the reserve.
commercialized, it has to be like again, like, oh, it's just grandma's little maple syrup thing. She sells some tins down at the local farmer's market for some
Yeah.
side cash.
Yeah, exactly.
Like,
That's fine. No one's gonna come knocking at your door for that. But like
yeah,
actually
and
send it
it's
out to Maxi or whatever, yeah, you'll have to.
yeah, and it also constitutes 77% of the world's supply of maple syrup
Yes,
comes from the
exactly.
Quebec maple syrup producer, the
So
QMSP.
do you know, like actually in quantity, how much is supposed to be held in reserve?
I mean, it can hold up to 55 million pounds, can't it? Which is like 130
Triple
million
that.
tons. Yeah, it's like
No,
100.
it's 133 million pounds.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, yeah.
For
So
fuck's sake.
that's a lot. Right? So it's designed to hold that much, right? But big news story like 4 days ago, in
Yeah, it's
2023,
like,
it's bad. And by bad, we mean the supply
I
fell
mean,
this year to
it's kind of the perfect
6.9
number.
million pounds.
I'm sorry, but that's also the perfect number to fall to. I'm just saying, but I think we know what the people are using maple syrup for, eh? Eh?
You gotta,
Sex jokes.
yeah, here in Canada, we use maple syrup as a lube. And we lost 50% of our audience. Too far.
That's fine.
So, yeah, I mean, we're at 6.9 million pounds. For our American audience, that's 3.1 million kilograms. Wait, which is metric?
Reverse
No, for our
that.
Canadian audience. Yeah, whatever. Doesn't matter.
Mhm.
So yeah, why is that bad?
So maple syrup is actually one of Canada's main exports, funny enough, to the rest of the world. And it's also one of the only markets that Canada actually holds like a massive strangle on.
Mhm.
Like it's one of the few things that we actually have full control over.
Oh yeah,
And it's
yeah,
also, yeah. And it's like it's a cultural ambassador, it's a brand thing. Like everybody knows us for our maple syrup. Even people here know us for our fucking maple syrup.
yep.
Like it's an actual thing. So it's now becoming a danger that if we can't produce enough maple syrup to get out there, yeah, we're gonna lose money and that's gonna hurt like a bitch. But there's also a major argument to be made for the cultural loss of Canada.
For sure. Yeah, like
I mean,
for now, like apparently the feds have said it shouldn't affect us this year or in the next because it's still millions of pounds that we have.
well, I think the other thing we have to consider is like, because I read the article and they were talking about it, and essentially they were saying like it's also we're coming off a couple of bad years that we're coming off of a couple of good years, and it's like these things come
Mhm.
in cycles. We just have to be
True.
careful and
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. But it is rather indicative of climate change as well,
yeah,
right?
that's the
Which I
other
know we
one.
talk
Yeah.
about. Like part of the reason why we're having to dip in the reserve is because it's getting harder and harder to produce maple syrup for longer. Because as people may or may not know, maple syrup requires certain temperature to make it,
It requires
right?
very specific temperature.
Exactly. Right.
What you
So
need is
no,
essentially during the night you need freezing temperatures, and then during the day you need them to warm up enough to like allow things to melt. It's a
yeah,
very like delicate balance, and as we know, climate change doesn't really do delicate balance.
exactly. Right. It fucks everything. Right. So sometimes you'll just have streaks of cold weather and streaks of warm weather, and that's not great for most things, and especially not maple syrup. Combine that with the fact that sometimes it's harder and harder for the maples to actually stay alive, right, under climate change.
Yeah,
Sometimes some of them are cut down, some of them die because of increasing
tree
amounts of
cancer,
right, whatever, right, all kinds of factors makes it
oxidation,
so
carbon
that
dioxidation,
yeah, so it'll become a problem within the next couple of years. That's for sure. It's already
and it's
becoming a
gonna become
problem.
yeah, and eventually we won't have any more maple syrup.
No. Or it'll cost like $50 a tub
Yeah,
and no one's gonna buy it.
yeah, it won't. You won't be. It's not gonna be an international product anymore. It's gonna be a Canada only product, and you're only gonna be able to get like you're not gonna be able to buy your cans of maple syrup anymore.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Not gonna be able to buy your fucking gasoline cans of maple syrup. And that's the other side of the coin is that we've only grown as consumers.
Mhm.
And we've only opened up our markets more and more. So we either need to reduce our consumption as much as we can of maple syrup and like manage our exports, or we risk losing everything. So there's a very delicate balance that is threatened by climate disaster. Remember, this is the lightest topic of today. It only gets worse.
No, it gets worse from here. And we can talk about this till the cows come home. But yeah, it's just this kind of fits in with just everything that's wrong with society right now. It's like we've just taken for granted that we could just keep consuming the way that we do for the rest of our lives, and that it'll be totally normal, right?
And again, it's part
Um,
of that myth in Canada, I think, as well. It fits really well into the idea of like, oh, we're in Canada. We don't need to worry about climate change.
right,
We're the nice little
right.
green eco country. And it's like,
And it's part of the myth
about
of
that.
like sustainability, right? As a concept, it's like that we shouldn't sustain this, right? Even if we find the greenest energy possible, we shouldn't use it to sustain our level of consumption because that doesn't make sense, right? So,
I
yeah,
mean, eventually we're just going to be creating temperature controlled biodomes where we're going to be growing groves of maple syrup trees,
yeah, exactly.
which is absolutely fucking wild to think about as a dystopian concept.
I,
Like,
for one, embrace a future where my maple syrup will come from a rooftop in Toronto.
but like imagine that, like just this large dome of its groves of maple trees and it's temperature controlled to be like specifically monitored. And it's like, what the fuck are we even living in anymore?
As far as like bad ideas go, there are worse.
Oh, I know. I know. I'm like I will forever be happier with a world with maple syrup than without, but I'm like the future when you really try and put it into concrete terms is wild to think about. That's why we study history so much, so we can avoid that.
Yes. And then not do anything about it.
Doing things is for squares.
Honestly.
Doing
Yeah.
things is for nerds. I'm a cool kid.
Yeah. Last question before we get to a quiz again. Do I don't remember when I was in Australia because that was like 10 years ago at this point. Do you get maple syrup in Australia?
You get
Okay,
we
yeah,
don't
you
get the
get it. Yeah.
cans. Any maple syrup we get is going to be like the small, like maple leaf shaped bottles,
Oh, yeah, yeah, yeah.
and it
Mhm,
has special stickers on them that say maple syrup, like from Quebec,
mhm.
Canada, whatever. It's so funny. Recently, we actually had like waffles for our like final staff morning tea, right?
Mhm.
So everybody's there, and we're having these waffles, and they have some kind of syrup on them, and
Okay.
I'm looking at this, I'm like, there's no way in fuck that's maple syrup. I am not touching those waffles. And he's like, oh, it's fine. I'm like, no, it's maple flavored syrup. I will not bastardize myself for this. Like, you guys don't know what you're
Refuse.
missing.
My body is a temple, and I
My,
cannot ruin it with maple flavored syrup.
I cannot tell you how like insulted my soul was as it left its body hearing the words maple flavored, and people try to be like, oh no, but it's good. And I'm like, get that Betty Crocker, Aunt Jemima bullshit out of my face.
Just no. It's unacceptable.
Unfucking acceptable. I swear to God. But
Oh
yeah, no.
God. All right.
So you pick a quiz now.
So I chose this next quiz, which we're both gonna suck at, which is why
You chose it.
I'm down.
Well, what if you
So
suck and I swallow?
oh God damn it. Why did you have to go there?
I don't know. I was bored. Whee!
Oh God.
Anyway,
Anyway, so this category that I chose is Canadian sports. And I
yeah,
also
because
did
we
to surprise
really.
me,
God damn it, Patrick.
but at least the difficulty that it surprised me with is easy. So we're good. We're
Yay.
maybe good on that one.
We're almost
Um,
there.
so what were the names of the four original teams of the NHL?
Oh boy. It's not going to be any of the modern names, is it? Does it give you options?
Uh, no. So it would have been the early, the early versions of it. So the option number one is the Montreal Canadiens,
Hmm.
Ottawa Senators, Montreal Wanderers, and Toronto Arenas.
Okay.
Right. Option number two is Montreal Canadiens, Montreal Wanderers, Toronto Arenas, and Ottawa Silver Seven. That one sounds plausible to me. I don't know. Option
You
3,
don't?
the Montreal Canadiens, Montreal Maroons, the Toronto Maple Leafs, and the Ottawa Senators. And the last option, the Toronto Arenas, the Renfrew Millionaires, the Ottawa Senators, and the Montreal Canadiens.
It's either the first or the second, I think. It would be the Montreal Wanderers because I know that's still the name of like some teams up in Westmount.
Okay, yeah, that makes sense.
Like for example, like my sister played for the Wanderers Rugby Club.
Okay, good. So Wanderers,
So that does now it's just is it the Senators or the Silver Seven?
I feel like the Senators. I remember hearing that somewhere that they've been around for a while. That's entirely a wild guess for me.
I say Silver Seven.
We're going with
I feel
Silver
like it's
Seven.
one of the I don't know. I feel like it's one of those things like they were probably this old like it sounds very mining company and it sounds like hockey back in
I
the
know.
day would have been like for the people mining company like just like oh it's gonna be like no literally like a group of guys working
Yeah.
in a company town just decide to like pop
Just
in, you
good old
know?
boys.
Mm-hmm.
And we were wrong. It's not the Silver Seven. It was the Senators.
Damn it.
Yeah. Some
Well
some
shit.
hockey fan is just screaming in the
Yeah,
headphones
my
right now.
my mother. Okay.
Okay.
What was it? Silver Seven. But here's the thing, right? I'm gonna admit to this right now. I cheated. I Googled it. And you know what that
What?
fucking told me? They were a founding member of the NHL Hockey League. Or the NHL, the National Hockey League.
I don't know what to tell you.
This quiz is bullshit. This quiz is wrong and it should feel bad. Fuck this
I
quiz.
have many things right here that say the four teams in 1917 were Wanderers, Canadians, Toronto Arenas, and Senators. I don't know. It doesn't matter. Who cares? This quiz says we're wrong.
Right, fine. Quiz number 2 then.
I know this next one, but I'll let you see if we know it. Who was Lord Stanley, the person who donated the Stanley Cup? Was he a successful businessman, B, Governor General, C, a hockey player, or D, an artist?
Was he a Governor General?
Yes, he was.
Yes! Let's go.
Extra
Didn't need
point
to
if you
Google
can
it.
say which Governor General he was.
Fuck off. Nope.
I think he was. Yeah, I think he was pretty early actually. I think he was um in like the 1880s. He was a very early Governor General. Yeah. Okay. Oh my God. I'm gonna. This one is gonna be a complete guess. The greatest track star in Canadian history, right, with gold medals in the 100-meter sprint and 4x100 relay was A, Harry Jerome, B, Donovan Bailey, C, Michael Smith, or D, Angela Isayenko.
I don't know. The woman?
Which one?
What was the third option 3 again?
Yeah. So Harry Jerome,
Yeah.
Donovan Bailey, Michael Smith, or Angela Isayenko.
Yeah, so Angela's the only female name in there, isn't it?
Angela, I would assume so, yeah, unless Donovan is a female name suddenly.
Yeah, let's pick Angela. I don't know any
Okay,
better.
we were wrong.
It was Donovan.
Yes, it was Donovan.
Fuck off, Donovan. God damn it.
God, these are all going to be guesses. Why did I choose this category?
I don't know.
During the Great Depression, the Colored All-Stars were an all-black organized baseball team from which town? So during the Great Depression, the Colored All-Stars were an all-black organized baseball team from which town? A, Chatham, Ontario, B, Boucherville, Quebec, C, Churchill, Manitoba, or D, Amherstburg, Ontario.
Oh boy. Okay.
I would say Chatham just because it's the stupidest name in that list.
That okay. Bit weird, but okay.
Like, I don't know, which one would you go with?
I mean, I'm fine with going with Chatham if you want to. I think it would be Ontario because that's where a lot of like, isn't there a history of that?
Baseball?
No, a history
Or
of never mind.
hmm,
Ontario
I
has
don't
more,
know.
like I'm saying, there would be more chance of like a black population organizing themselves and forming like than there would be in Ontario more than any other place in uh
Sure. Yeah.
Canada,
Yeah.
right?
You would have some, I guess, in the Maritimes as well, though no one cares about the Maritimes. So, and they're not
Hmm.
an option. So I guess you're right. Out of the options that are offered here, I would assume so. Yeah.
Hmm.
Yeah. All right, let's
I
go
could
with
be dead
Chatham.
wrong again. My logic didn't work before.
It was Chatham. Woo!
Let's go.
Hey,
Let's
we're 2 for 4.
go. 2 for 4, baby. We just need one more and we get a pass.
Okay. Which NHL team? Oh, I know this one. Which NHL team has won the most Stanley Cups?
Okay, yeah, if we didn't know this one, I would actually be disowned by my family.
Yeah. So I don't even need to read the options. I can just put
It's
down the
Montreal
Canadian.
Canadiens. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
Say the
Hey, we got
Canadiens.
it
Go
right.
Habs, go.
Hey.
I'm glad that we're doing this with the easy quizzes, so that way we don't get royally over by the medium or hard ones.
Okay. So we're at a
Mhm.
pass now, but well, they offered me 10 questions. I'm gonna go all the way to 7, just for the fun of it.
Let's go.
Okay. Which 3 Canadian cities have hosted the Olympics?
Like summer, winter,
It just says the Olympics. So
Vancouver, Montreal, and it
I think
wasn't
Edmonton,
Calgary. Or
Calgary.
what's
Yeah. So the
hold
options,
on.
option number 1 is Ottawa, Halifax, and Montreal. That's no. There's no way Ottawa
No.
has hosted the Olympics.
Yeah.
Um, option 2, Toronto, Montreal, and Vancouver.
Wasn't Toronto.
I don't think so either. Yeah. Option 3, Edmonton, Ottawa, Toronto. Again,
Nope, there's no
no.
Vancouver.
Yeah, exactly. And option 4, Calgary, Montreal, Vancouver. Yeah, I
That's
think
it.
you're
It's
right in this
Calgary.
case.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, because I know
Yes.
Montreal has done it because
Yes.
that's all my mother
Forest
talks
keeps
about
falling
sometimes.
apart because our stadium sucks.
It was great in its time.
Was it? Even at its time, it was faced with a lot of shit.
You know, I don't think Canada should ever host a Summer Olympics again. It should only host winter ones.
Yeah. 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 There's no doubt in my mind about that one. All right. Last question. Oh God. What I don't even know what this means. Who were the 2 teams that played in the Fog Bowl of 1962 and who won the game? What the hell is a
What the
Fog Bowl?
fuck? I was about to say. Fog
What?
Bowl?
You have to know. What is the Fog Bowl? This is going to give us the answer, but whatever.
It's a
Um,
it's an American football thing.
what? No. Yeah,
Hold
in
on.
1962. So the American football one is 1988.
Oh, it's the Grey
It's
Cup. It's the
it's the
nickname of the
50th
Grey
Grey Cup.
Cup.
Okay. It's the
I-
50th Grey Cup. Yeah.
So, okay, I'm not going to look at it anymore. Read out the team name options.
Okay.
Now that I know what it
So
is.
So option A, the Toronto Argonauts defeated the Eskimos, the Edmonton Eskimos. Option
Okay.
2, Hamilton Tiger Cats defeated the Winnipeg Blue Bombers. Option
Mhm.
3, the Saskatchewan Roughriders defeated the Ottawa Roughriders. There's no way we have 2 teams that are both called the Roughriders. That would be so stupid.
No.
And option 4, the Winnipeg Blue Bombers defeated the Hamilton Tiger Cats.
Let's go with option 4.
Let's go with option 4. Correct. Was that a guess? Was that a complete shot in the dark?
Yes. Worship me as the god I am.
Well, thanks to your shot in the dark, we answered 5 out of 7 correctly. So
Let's fucking go. My
let's do
dudes.
this. Okay, so apparently it remains this Fog Bowl in 1962 remains the only Grey Cup that was ever suspended during play and the first to be finished on a Sunday. The Grey Cup was won by the Blue Bombers and is still considered to be one of the 10 best Grey Cup games of all time.
Oh. Ooh, I have a really fun sports fact I learned about like the
Okay.
NHL. This is the old rules for
Okay.
overtime. So obviously now we have shootouts, right? Instead of going, but it used to be that like multiple overtimes, right?
Mm-hmm.
So do you know what would happen? It's hold on. So do you know what happens in over like if they get to like the fifth overtime?
And the fifth overtime? No.
They drop a second puck.
No.
Do you want to know what happens if they and that's only ever happened once.
That's insane.
In like 1973, there was a second puck.
This is
Do you want to know
NHL
what
or C?
happens?
Yeah. Go ahead, please.
Oh no, it isn't. It's just it was a myth. I looked it up and it was a myth. So
Damn.
stupid.
We tried. So wait, it's never happened? Or it's not
When
true
it's
that
not
they
a real
drop a second
rule.
puck?
That's so
Oh, okay.
stupid.
I wish that were true. That would make me watch the game,
The only time
actually.
that a second puck is ever used in NHL is if the game goes into a shootout, which is a tie-breaking procedure that takes place after a game has remained tied after overtime.
Right. Yeah. Okay. We tried.
So,
News piece.
yeah. All right. So, which one do you want? Do you want to talk about the railroad or do you want to talk about the schools and the lawsuit?
Uh, we can go with schools because I think it can lead to other stuff that's happening in Canada, which we haven't talked about on air. Right.
Mhm. So,
Okay,
school
cool.
boards?
Yeah. So
All right.
go for it.
So, this one is actually quite personal to my heart because this is going to change the very landscape of education. Like, this is a landmark moment, especially in Canada. So, essentially, right, we have social media. Not great for kids, right? I think we can all agree it's not actually good for the youth. Who uses it the most?
I think it has some benefits, but generally, no, it's not great.
No.
Mhm.
It's for the and it's mostly used by young people who it damages the most, right?
Sure.
Yeah. So and it's become a huge problem in schools.
Mm.
Mhm. So four Ontario school boards are now getting together to sue three of the biggest companies. TikTok,
Yeah.
Snapchat, and Meta. And Meta controls Instagram and Facebook essentially.
Right. Exactly. I thought they were just suing the Facebook aspect, but yeah, maybe they're doing all of it. Yeah. Mhm.
Well, because they all cause separate issues that we
Sure.
see.
Mm-hmm.
So
Yeah.
TikTok with its short form videos is causing dangerous trends and it causes like attention span problems. Like it's really killing people's attention spans.
In
Snapchat,
many ways, yeah.
yeah, Snapchat is mainly a problem for things like sexting, pornography,
Mm.
child pornography, illicit pictures, things like that.
Mm-hmm.
Like I can't tell you how many times I've had girls in my classroom tell me that they just get random dick pics from boys over Snap.
Oh wow. I didn't even
Yeah.
think it was still a thing, to be honest. But cool.
Oh, you'd be surprised.
I'm sure I would.
And
I don't pay
then
attention to it. Mm-hmm.
yeah, and then Meta and Instagram for the bullying aspect.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
It's the triumvirate of evil in social media, you know? Bullying, pornography, killing attention spans. So the school boards are obviously school boards don't get any help from the fucking government. They don't get enough funding, right? Especially in Ontario where they have Doug fucking Ford as their premier. So they decide to and these are the public district school boards of Toronto, Peel, and Ottawa Carleton. And then
Mm-hmm.
there's the Toronto's Catholic counterpart are looking for about 4.5 billion dollars in total damages from Meta Platforms Inc., Snap Inc., and ByteDance Limited, which operate the platforms Facebook, Instagram, Snapchat, and TikTok.
Okay.
And so
Cool.
what they are saying is that these social media companies have knowingly created a product that is addictive and marketed to kids.
Mm-hmm.
We need them to be held accountable. We need them to create safer products. Now, there's an issue of can school boards really the ones that should be doing the suing right now? Like, are they like, what's the damages to schools?
Yeah.
But it's an indirect cause. And I know a lot of people will
Yeah.
say things like, ban the cell phones, do this, do that. It's like, do you know how clever kids are with these shit? Like
And it's also it doesn't, even if we do manage in schools to ban phones, like manage some kind of way by miracle to not have them use their phones in some way, shape, or form during school hours, which we never will, right? Um, because it's become so ubiquitous as part of our school, of
No,
part of
no,
our
like I've
lives
seen
that
schools that
it's
ban
just,
cell phones. Like they take the phones off the kid at the start of the day. You want to know what the kids do?
hmm,
They buy a second phone.
yeah, there you go.
They buy a
Like that's what I'm
second.
saying.
They'll
Like
have a burner phone. They'll have a doopy phone. They'll have like they're too clever.
and even if like that's what I'm saying. Even if you did somehow manage to get it, like it doesn't stop the actual underlying problem, which is
Yeah.
to say the actual effect that it has on their, like you're saying, attention spans, right? Which is
Or the fact that
noticeable.
like they're still going to send dick pics outside of school days.
Exactly. Right.
The
Whatever.
bullying is happening outside of school.
Yeah. Hmm. Now, what I find kind of interesting, like I do support going against things like this, right? That's fine. What I do find interesting is two things. One, that Ontario's premier has called bullshit on this,
Yeah, he's
right?
called it
Um,
nonsense
yeah, he's
because
called
he's
it
probably getting
nonsense.
paid. He's getting paid off by social media companies.
I don't know what
For
he's an unhinged moron. So yeah, I'm not surprised that he's
he's
saying
a
that it's
fat,
nonsense.
corrupt. He's literally a fat cat. Like there's no other way around it. He's a political fat cat.
He is the stereotype. So that's kind of interesting. I don't know, like you're saying, like what the why he officially he's saying it because it goes against the core values of right what the education system is supposed to do, which I think is an odd argument to make, but
It's also not
whatever.
against. The point of the education system is to prepare kids in the best way to be critical thinkers in society. These apps are going against that very principle of making them into critical thinkers. And it's
Exactly.
also, again, who's decided what the point of education is? Like
Mhm.
that's a philosophical debate that everybody in education is still having with each other, and everybody arrives to their own conclusion.
Exactly. Right. So
But in the
it's
general
certainly not.
consensus of the most common ones that people have picked out, those social media platforms in no way do good for any of those things. If you want them to be critical thinkers, if you want them to
Yeah.
be ready for the workforce, even if you want to take a neoliberal perspective on it,
Mm.
they're not going to be ready because they're going to be too used to looking at social media to work in a workforce. They're going to be too
Mhm.
used to like quick form content to be able to focus 8 hours a day on a job. Like, even if you want to take the bleak capitalistic perspective, these social media platforms ain't doing shit.
The only thing I would say positive about it, um, I've noticed, at least in my students, they they do have a keen awareness of what's going on in the world, right? They thanks to because that's where a lot of them get their information, right? They're not necessarily able to critically think about it, and they don't look at it necessarily in depth, but they do have an awareness that is, I think, better than most
I
generations in the past of what's happening in the world, right? At all times, right? Which
Yes
I think is
and
kind of
no.
interesting. Yeah, exactly.
My
They're not. It's not an in-depth knowledge, but they do have some awareness of it,
my
and I
problem
feel
isn't
like
in the
that's kind of
depth
cool.
of it, because I'm happy
Mm,
with them like coming to ask me questions. The real problem with even this idea that we're giving them a more connected perspective is that they then become locked into an ideology very quickly.
that's true. Yes, that's true.
And that's the problem. So even, and here's the thing, back in the day, like, yeah, the kids didn't know what was happening in the world, but at least that made them a bit more open to like thinking differently and made them more moldable.
Hmm. Hmm.
Right now, like there's if they have it's like the word is influencer. They are being
Yeah,
influenced to think, believe, and act in a certain way without taking in all the facts.
for sure.
And that's
Yeah,
like so, and again, I'm not trying to say like because in my mind, I genuinely think like phones can be a useful tool in class. I know kids that they need to listen to music because they have sensory issues. I know kids that use it strictly for research to help them find information. I know like all
I
these
know
kids that can
teachers
do
who
it
use it
properly.
for. I know teachers who use it for pedagogical,
Yep,
like devices that are like games and stuff like that. So I feel like that's
yep,
cool.
Kahoot and
Yep.
all these
Hmm.
other things.
Yep.
But it's just like the actual platforms that they have access to are just so
Yes.
my problem is almost that like the schools need to group up with other early childhood institutions.
Hmm.
Like this needs to be a whole effort from everybody who works in some sort of childcare facility organization need to get together on this lawsuit
Yeah.
because it's affecting our kids in a huge, and that's the way that these companies are going to get out of it. It's like, well, we're not directly responsible for this. We're not. It's like, you are though.
Yeah. Yeah,
Like
you are.
you deliberately create your search algorithms to cause
Mhm.
these problems. Like you are like, yeah, I'll blame bad parenting in there too for sure and bad parental oversight. But this is like you're the AR-15 equivalent. Like you're still a loaded gun that we don't need in our lives right now.
Yeah. I do. This kind of fits in with my second point, where it's like, as much as I support the fact that we should either not have children use social media, right, because it's of its damaging effects, or be help them navigate it better, right, in a healthier way. However that works, I don't know if it even is possible because of like the way you're saying it's organized. However you decide to go forward with I do find it interesting, and we can talk about this after another quiz if you want,
Mhm.
how this kind of, I feel, is not going to go anywhere.
No, exactly.
And
That's the
I
problem.
don't, as much as I support it, I don't think it's going to do anything, because the Canadian fucking government on its whole, the federal government, decided to, well, in its own weird way, try to help small news organizations by going against Facebook, and failed, because Facebook just stopped promoting Canadian content, right?
Yeah.
And you can no longer post Canadian news on Facebook, right? As
Yeah.
a result of it. So like, Facebook is just too big. If the entire freaking government can't do something against Facebook, or Facebook just ignores them, right?
Yeah.
I don't know what 4 school boards are going to do.
Hmm.
Um, as much as I
However,
want
I
them to
will
be able to.
say I still hate Doug Ford's response.
Yes, no, it's nonsense. He's
Like,
nonsense. Yeah.
what are they spending on lawyer fees to go after these massive companies that have endless cash to fight this? Yeah, okay, for sure. Whatever. Let's
You're
focus on
missing
the
the point.
kids, not about this other nonsense that they're looking to fight in court. They are focusing on the kids. This is the real, like, you talk to any teacher right now, and there are 2 or 3 problems on our minds going forward.
Mhm.
There's how do we like navigate social media? How do we
Yes.
check for AI writing? And then like, how the fuck do we keep kids motivated? How do we keep them focused in class? These all relate back to social media. Like this is us focusing on the kids, you belligerent, idiotic, moronic, fat fuck. This is why I hate when governments talk about education, because you can tell all of them went to fancy preppy schools and just like got fucking caned if they stepped out of line.
Or are using it
Dumbasses.
as or are using it as an easy target for budget cuts. And
Yeah, fuck.
and that's
Let's
not
cut.
either what you should use education for.
God, the
Ah,
education system is.
yeah.
And then everybody
It
gets
is kind
wondering,
of,
like, oh, why aren't there more teachers?
yeah. Oh my God. That we don't need to spend that much time on this, but might as well keep talking about education.
Well, you've got me
Quebec,
really, really riled up right now. So
the Quebec government just recently announced its new budget.
don't start. Don't start.
For I only know for universities because I haven't had a chance to look into it like more deeply. So apologies for anyone who cares about this rant. For the universities of Quebec, they're giving about $135 million over the next 5 years,
Okay.
right? Which may seem like a lot, but it comes out to about $5 million a year per university in Quebec, right?
Right.
Which, as my mother-in-law, who works in a university, said, barely covers the salary of like a department. So like, what are you doing?
Where's that
That's
money
nothing.
going, Lego? God damn it.
Anyway, that's
Yeah, I
no
hate
wonder
when governments.
universities are in the red. Anyway,
Well, no one like I took a look at a thing and it basically Quebec universities pay their TAs half of what they get paid in the rest of Canada. And
yeah,
it's like,
McGill's TAs I think are on strike right now. Yeah.
yeah, and it's like, yeah, no, duh, that's what happens.
Mhm.
But oh my God, like I'm not saying universities are these paragons. Like, no, they're corporations and yeah, they're greedy as shit, but also like
Mhm.
they kind of have to be with what the government's
Yeah.
giving them.
Yeah. And to be fair, the cost of living is less in Quebec, right, than it is in other parts of Canada. So
But
like, yes,
not
it would make
not
sense.
really anymore.
Not
Not
that
with the
much.
rising in yeah, like not really with the rising rent prices and everything else. Like,
I mean, it has
okay,
also
yeah,
been
we don't
rising
have like
elsewhere.
yeah,
Yeah.
but like yeah, we're not paying a lot maybe for electric or whatever, but
Hmm.
it's still kind of fucking expensive. Rent is
Yeah.
still a bitch to pay if you're living in
Yeah.
the
Yeah. Yeah.
city.
Oh, for sure. Um, but yeah, all that to say, like this particular news story of like the suing of social media platforms, like is surprisingly relevant to a lot of issues going on in Canada right now. Like you can relate it to the federal government's kind of overall attempt to legislate a lot of things related to online content, right? With Bill
Mhm.
C-10, Bill C-18, Bill C-63, which are all related to online harm or online readership in some way, shape, or form. And there's a lot to criticize with a lot of these bills, but it is kind of interesting how we're on this kind of momentum
Well, it's
of,
nice to see that we're actually stepping up to finally like put some shit in place.
yeah. Hmm. And some of it I think is kind of weird. Like the thing with the bill that I was talking about with Facebook, right? That Facebook would have to pay Canadian news organizations. Like I think that backfired more than anything, right? More than helped anyone. Um, but and there's a lot to criticize for the recent one of Bill 60, C-63 because it's so nebulous. um, like what exactly constitutes online harm and what exactly the powers of the government are for someone who promotes certain forms of hate speech
God
online. Like
damn it.
it's a lot, right? It's a lot. And there, as it currently stands, there's a lot to criticize, and I'm not comfortable with a lot of it, but I'm curious to see where it goes.
The world is nonsense.
Yeah.
We live in a
Yeah.
society.
What a weird world we live in. And all of this, by the way, fuck, we're getting away from the quiz. This is just becoming a rant show. All of this is like giving such fuel to the conservative shitstorm that is just going to hang on to these things as a way to attack the liberals and then do something similar. Like, uh,
Uh,
anyway, I
let's
can't
go
wait
back
to
to
get
a
an email
quiz.
from someone who's like, why are you ranting about this? Because it matters.
Because what we teach our children fucking matters. We were all kids once.
Yeah.
It- an informed population is the death of tyranny, folks. Education can be.
Anyway.
Pick a fucking quiz.
What a seamless transition. Anyway, you chosen the next
I'll choose the next.
topic.
Okay.
Go for it.
All right. Let's do film in Canada.
Cool. Cool.
I
I
feel
love
like you'll
how
be good at
oddly
this one.
specific. I love how oddly specific some of these categories are, like liberation of the Netherlands quiz. What?
I love how we keep getting the easy difficulty. All right.
It knows.
Which Canadian actor is the grandson of Tommy Douglas, the father of universal health care in Canada? Jim
Um,
Carrey, Keanu Reeves, Ryan Reynolds, or Kiefer Sutherland?
do you know?
No.
It's Kiefer Sutherland.
I thought it
Sutherland.
was going to be that one. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
What film
Which
does not
I
star two? Oh,
oh sorry. I only recently found that out.
hmm.
It's kind of cool. Yeah. Yeah.
What film does not
Anyway,
star two Canadians in the lead roles? The Notebook, The Matrix, Juno, or Scott Pilgrim versus the World? It's
say
The
that again.
Notebook, The Notebook, The
Yeah.
Matrix,
Yeah.
Juno, Scott Pilgrim
Yeah.
versus the World.
It would be Scott Pilgrim.
No, it's The Notebook, isn't it? Who stars in The Notebook? Isn't
No.
it like Miley Cyrus?
No, The Notebook is Ryan Gosling and Rachel McAdams, both of whom
Oh,
are
I got
from
mine mixed
Ontario.
up. Yeah, okay. Oh, right, because
Yeah.
Michael Sarah, he's not Canadian.
Michael Cera is in Scott Pilgrim. Yeah.
Yeah, and he's not Canadian.
I don't think so. Wait,
Oh, cool.
hold on. Yes, he is. Shit.
Well, we got it right
Which one is
anyway.
it?
I guess it
Oh,
would be
right. Okay.
whoever played
Which?
Ramona.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
And then Juno,
Cool.
is that Ellen Page or is that Elliot Page?
Yeah.
That's a good topic for a Pop Canada episode, Elliot Page.
Yeah.
All right.
Anyway,
For 3 years in a row, films from which province/territory were nominated for Best International Feature at the Oscars? Quebec, Nunavut, British Columbia, Ontario.
I would have to go with either Quebec or British Columbia, I feel.
I feel like films that are only made, like they're only filmed in British Columbia, they're not from there.
Yeah. Maybe.
I'm gonna
No,
pick,
it can't be Nunavut.
I'll
There's no
pick
film
Quebec.
industry.
It's Quebec.
It is Quebec. Okay.
Yeah. Which of the following Canadian filmmakers is not Québécois? Xavier Dolan, Denis Villeneuve, Denis Arcand, James Cameron. You just have to say the names out loud for that one.
Have you seen since the release of Dune Part 2, just the slew of American content just trying to brutally pronounce Denis Villeneuve's name and just
Oh my god.
failing spectacularly at it. It's
Dennis
incredible.
Villeneuve.
Where's the V? I saw
Oh my.
I saw I saw Dennis Villeneuve and I was like, how? How do you even get that one? I shouldn't dunk on people too much because pronouncing anything in a language not your own is difficult. But like that's a far cry.
Still. No, but it's all if you're a news organization, you got to put in the fucking research.
Yeah, too. Yeah,
These are the biggest, like the Dune movies are some of the biggest movies in the world right now.
yeah.
Put in your work. Put in the work, man. Get woke. All right.
On someone's name.
On some Quebecois man's name. What was the first state-sponsored film organization in the world? Associated Screen News, the Ontario Motion Picture Bureau, the Canadian Government Motion Picture Bureau, the National Film Board of Canada.
I assume the National Film Board of Canada, but I don't know.
Let's see. I'm picking your one. Ooh, it was the Ontario Motion Picture Bureau.
Really?
First state-sponsored film organization in the world.
Wow. It was established by the government of Ontario in 1917. Huh. Was it like a war
Huh.
propaganda thing?
I don't know.
Hold on.
Fuck if I know, man.
Its
Here.
mandate was to carry out educational work for farmers, school children, factory workers, and other classes to promote the province and its resource, and to, quote, encourage the building of highways and other public works. So it was propaganda.
Huh.
That's cool.
That's neat. I like that. All right. All right, let's talk about our last news bit, the railroad.
Okay, that's it. Do we get,
Yeah.
what do we get? 4 out of 5?
4 out of 5.
Yeah.
Pretty good. Best one so far.
Nice.
All right, Patrick, tell me about the railroad strike.
Look, you're the one who told me about this one.
I thought you knew about this.
Like, I looked into it a little bit. But so yeah, Canada's railway workers hold on. I'm gonna look it up before I put my foot in my mouth. I'm just for some of the details. But this, yeah, the last ones that are coming up are like at the end of February. So I think it's a strike notice. Sorry, it hasn't gone off yet, right? But it's a
But it's
strike
another
notice from
note.
the CN rail workers, right?
Well, why is this such an indication of a modern problem in Canada? And why is it still the fucking railroad? Like, why do we still care so much about the railroad, Patrick?
Well, I think for different reasons, because when we first in the 19th century cared about it, is because we were just starting it off, right? And so there was a lot of controversy. There was a lot of uh, uh, corruption surrounding it, right? And keeping it up to date was very much an issue, right? But now I think the issue has kind of shifted in two ways. One, because as a general rule, workers get fucked over in capitalist societies in the heartland of empire, like Canada is, right? So that's just how things generally go. But also, I feel like service workers and like public engineers, like railway workers, I mean, are very much underappreciated for the actual work that they do. I don't know if
Mhm.
you agree with this, um, but yeah, I feel like they're very much underappreciated, and it leads to them being like actually monetarily undervalued in many ways, which leads them to strike out, right? Which a lot of people
Yeah.
are then mad about, because then they suddenly realize, well, we can't have railway workers on strike because then everything will be stopped. And it's like, yeah,
Right.
that's the point. You don't notice us. um, anyway, I feel like that's uh because yeah, they I think they, for this particular strike, it's because they failed to reach a new collective agreement. Right?
Mhm.
But yeah, I don't know. What do you know about it?
I honestly not much. I just saw this scrolling through my news Monday, and I was like, guys, is this like, isn't it still the same rail company from the 19th century that's running things?
But technically, yes, but we have more than one rail company now. But there is a
Right.
continuity between the Canadian National and yeah,
Canadian
mhm,
Pacific.
yeah.
Canadian Pacific, Kansas City. I just
Yeah.
think it's indicative of like, I don't know, because railroad and striking and all these other things to me seems to be like it's such a holdover from an ancient time. It's like hearing about a kid got crushed by a metal wheel in a factory, you know? It feels like it's a problem that belongs in the 19th century still,
Hmm.
not a problem
Yeah.
that we still need to be like putting this much time and focus into today. Like
Do you
what the
mean like in the sense that we should have already, like we should just stop caring about it, or because it should have already been solved and we should
it
just
should have been solved.
yeah.
No, we always care about the workers, and that's what I'm saying.
Yeah,
Like
okay.
the Canadian railway companies, they have it pretty good, right? Like they fully have a monopoly on these things.
Pretty much. Like we have like what, three, four maybe companies,
Yeah.
rail companies. We have Via Rail, CN, CP, maybe a couple more. But yeah, it's very limited. Yeah.
And I don't know. I feel like it's just it's the fact that we still have such focus on like, oh, they're asking too much, blah blah. It's like, do you guys know how much we rely on the railroad to get things like if you think things stopped working for a while and that we weren't getting our shit during COVID, just watch yourself now.
Hmm.
Watch what happens
Yeah.
when the trains stop moving.
You see, we don't really care about the railway because we do everything by car and boat.
Yeah, and I think that's part of the problem is that we live in such a
Yeah.
future society, we've forgotten about the railroad. Like
Hmm.
it's just a
Yeah.
quaint holdover of small towns now. It's like, oh honey, look, this town has railroad tracks. Ain't that a coinky dink?
Even though we should use more railroads, in my opinion, there's no reason why we have so few. But hey,
Even though
that's
you're right, we should use more and we should like because the technology is better for them. And yeah, when we aren't pumping coal and everything else into them, they're actually kind of not bad for travel and environmental reasons.
exactly. Yeah.
But whatever, just keep on trucking. Yeehaw.
Oh. Yeehaw, mother. So yeah, but like
Yeehaw, motherfucker,
we'll
in my train.
we'll hear more about this as it develops, but yeah, it's there's not much to say about it so far. It's like they've announced that they a strike mandate. So when that's going to go off, I don't know, right? But hopefully they get what their demands met, or at least some the
Hmm.
most important ones. And it is kind of indicative of a lot of workers that are going off across the world because salaries have not been meeting inflation, right? In many ways, the auto workers in the United States have gone on strike. Some actually train stations have gone on strike, and train workers have gone on strike in the States too. I was on
Hmm.
strike not that long ago. So all of these,
How did your strike
um,
end up wrapping up?
I'm sorry.
How did your strike go? Like, what was the end of your strike?
Yeah, like I was on strike, but the CEGEP teachers that I was a part of were never the central focus,
No.
right? The most important ones, are the ones that were in highest demand, were nurses, um, and, elementary school teachers or high school teachers as well. So all of these people, they're really the focus, and our side of it ended up in we got some of our demands met, um,
Not enough, obviously.
but it was okay, right? Like I'm not saying no to it, but if it had kept going, we probably would have had a little bit more. But hey, I won't spit in the face of it. And I can't tell you with any certainty what the nurses and school teachers got, right? Concretely. I know they got some things, but I can't tell you with any certainty. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, that's pretty much it.
All right.
I don't know what
well,
else to say about this one.
No, that's fair, and I don't have much else to say. I just thought it was interesting to talk about with how much we've talked about similar issues in the past.
Yeah, that's fair. Yeah.
All right, well,
Shall we
do
go with
you
one last
one
quiz?
last quiz? You go ahead, you
Yeah.
pick it.
Okay, cool. Let's go with okay, fine. Let's go with one that's perfect for our show, Canadian literature.
Okay.
Surprise me. Okay,
Did we get easy again?
it picked easy again. Or do we want to go hard just for the last one?
No.
Okay. So, question 1 of 5. Who was the first Canadian woman to win the Nobel Prize for Literature?
Alice Munro.
Okay. You are correct.
Did you know that one?
Yes, I knew that one.
Okay.
I think is she the only Canadian author to have won the Nobel Prize?
I feel like there's another one. I will look that up quickly. Canadian author, Nobel Prize. Seems like it's only no Alice Munro.
Yeah, I think so.
What a queen.
Just go off, Queen. But for literature, others have won in different categories like economics, physics, and chemistry. But for literature, yeah. Cool. Who is the author of the novel known as The Book of Negroes? Do you know it off the top of your head, or do you need the options?
No, I do not. I need the options.
Okay.
Do you know it off the top of your head?
Yes, because I own that book.
Oh, that's right. You own all of these books. Because you're so cool, aren't you? You're just Mr. fucking Hunky Dory over there.
I am
nerd.
cool. Do you know why I'm cool? Because even my students call me cool. And if I'm cool for a 17-year-old, that means I've peaked.
It's just like back in high school, except I'm popular now.
So, option 1, Margaret Atwood. Option 2, Sharon Thesson. Option 3, Lawrence Hill. And option 4, Rowanton Mystery.
I have no idea. I only know one author there.
Really? Matt.
Yeah.
It's Lawrence Hill.
Okay. Oh yeah, Lawrence Hill, of course. Yeah, for sure.
Okay, you might know this one because this is like real classic shit. Who wrote Anne of Green Gables? Bruh. Alistair MacLeod, Lucy Maud Montgomery, Mordecai Richler, or Margaret Lawrence? Which of these names sounds? Yes, thank you. I was going to say which of these names sounds like it. Think of which name sounds like it's from 1908.
Well, also, I know it's not going to be Mordecai Richler or Alistair MacLeod. And who was the other option?
Oh, shit, I already went to the last one.
It was with Alice Munro, probably.
Yeah, or something like that. Yeah.
Listen, man. My knowledge of Canadian literature is very weird and specific. You know, my knowledge of any given topic is very weird and specific. You know this.
Mm-hmm. You might know this one because you lived there for a bit. Okay? What poet?
It's a Yukon question.
Yes, it's a Yukon question. What poet was dubbed the quote poet of the Yukon? It's a poetry question.
My great love.
James Rainey, Pauline Johnson, Robert Service, or Leonard Cohen?
Not Leonard Cohen. What were the other options?
So it's not obviously not Cohen, James Rainey, Pauline Johnson, or Robert Service.
Well, name the first one, sorry.
James Rainey. Rainy?
I'll go with that one.
Okay. No. But I only
Who
know
was
this not
it?
because I know it. It's Robert Service. I only know this by process of elimination because I
Okay. I
know
didn't
the
know who the
others are
others
not
were.
based.
Who's James Reaney?
Yeah. Oh, I've heard the name before, but what did he write? Hold on.
I feel like we talked about him once.
I feel like his name has come up. Um, let's see. He wrote The Donnellys, which was a series of poems that was kind of interesting. Uh, where else?
The Red
Wrote a
Heart,
play
Susan
called The
Knowles.
Killdeer, Colors in the Dark. Um,
But
yeah, a
yeah,
bunch of
okay.
poems.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, yeah, that's me. I don't know Canadian literature. I'm a failure and a disgrace. Thanks for listening, everybody. Hope you had a good
Dude,
time.
wait. There was one last question here.
Okay.
You might know this one. Who wrote the poem In Flanders Fields?
It's John McCrae.
Yay! You
In
got four out
those
of
fields.
five.
Let's. Did I actually?
3 out of
Oh
5.
no, yeah, there you go. I was about to say. I know I got 2 of those wrong at least.
Yeah, exactly.
In Flanders fields, the
Oh God.
poppies grow.
I want to finish off with a last piece of news, which is still in development. So this is something that I know very little about because I'm not part of the queer community, but I do encourage people to pay attention to it because it could, I'm not saying it will, I'm saying it could lead to some pretty heavy stuff, right? So as you may or may not know, um, in Canada, much like in elsewhere in so-called civilized places, there's been increasing attacks against trans people and queer youth in general, right? We see it with explicit laws in places like Alberta, or in the United States, and sometimes less explicit laws, but more implicit actions in places like here in Montreal, where people are protesting things like drag queen story hour and things like this. And recently, the government of Quebec decided to put together a commission that it called a Commission des Sages, right? Literally, wise people, right? Is the literal translation of this. To evaluate the question of queer people and trans people and educate and how they were approached in education or how they are to be approached in Quebec's education, right?
Mhm.
Which on the surface seems okay, right? You want to
Mhm.
be able to talk about a variety of people in a reasonable way, right? In a way that is instructive as befits education.
Mhm.
But considering just like the way that things are going in major parts of the world, I do encourage people to pay attention to it, because already this small commission that's formed does not include queer people or trans people as part of it.
Sorry.
Right.
Of course it
Um,
doesn't. It's like when the
or at
fucking
least not people.
EPA committee is run by a fucking oil lobbyist.
Right, exactly. It's not off to a great start, right? And considering the very conservative bend that this government that we have currently is taking, I don't want to be a doomsayer for it, but I do want to just say, like, pay attention to it. And, it might be important coming up. I know there's already some protests that are beginning to form in opposition to how this is already being handled, both from trans groups and feminist groups. So we'll see how it goes. But I just wanted to highlight that because why the fuck not? Right. Um, so yeah, I don't know.
That's
Whatever the
funny.
hell this episode was.
But we covered all the topics, really.
um, Great. So thank you everyone for listening to this off the cuff episode of Historia Canadiana.
Somehow we
And
managed to scratch out over an hour of it, which is pretty good.
let's go. That's us. Just scoot on by or whatever. When you'll hear us again, we will actually be top shape and back to our normal selves, talking about eugenics of all things, which is a totally normal subject of conversation, right? And I
God
don't
damn it.
see how that could backfire in any way, shape, or form. Um, but yeah, if you want to support the show, you can do so on Patreon, PayPal, all of that stuff. If you want to support us on Patreon, Mac runs the stuff over there, right? He runs an extra
Well,
episode a month. It's
Yeah,
great.
there you go.
And we should be recording one soon. So keep your eyes and ears peeled for that one. Yeah. I don't know. Did you find this fun, Mac? Did you have fun with
I
this
actually
episode?
enjoyed myself. I had fun.
Oh, great. Anyway, happy
What about
Easter,
you?
anyway, everyone.
Did you have fun?
I always have fun with you.
Oh, stop it. But also keep going.
Yay. All right. Cheers, everyone.
Cheers.
Just abruptly end.
You've worked hard for what you have. Your money, your assets, your 401k, and home. Isn't it all worth protecting? Nearly 1 in 4 consumers have been a victim of identity theft. LifeLock Ultimate Plus helps protect your finances with up to $3 million in reimbursement. LifeLock alerts you to identity threats you might miss. And if your identity is stolen, your dedicated US-based restoration specialist will work to fix it. Let LifeLock help protect what you've worked so hard for. Save 25% off your first year on LifeLock Ultimate Plus at LifeLock.com/aware. Terms apply.